but hopefully we can get the same result for Daunte, the same result that George Floyd got, and get justice for him and get his killer in jail. Now, the family didn't really get a chance to talk at the funeral, so China would like to read a letter that she has written that talks about Daunte to you all, just right now.
Hi everyone, my name is China Whitaker, and me and Daunte, we have a son together, Daunte Wright Jr., and I had wrote a letter to him, and I just want to read that now.
Is it over there on the ground? I think. It might be.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Daunte, where did you go? Why did you leave? My heart breaks for our son. He's only a year old and without his dad. I remember when he was first born. He scared us. We thought we were going to lose him because he came so early. We continue to pray and ask God to heal him, and he's still here today. I'm sorry you won't get to see his second birthday party. You won't get to witness his elementary years, his high school prom, or even just simple things fathers and sons do. What am I supposed to tell our son when he grows up and asks about you? When I look at his face, it makes me want to cry. He's so amazing, and the fact that somebody took you from him, it leaves me speechless. This feels like a nightmare. Only thing is, it's not a bad dream. It's reality. I want you to know, no matter what, I will always love you. Don't worry. I will make sure baby Daunte knows how much you love him and how special he was in your eyes. He looks just like you. I am thankful you left a piece of you with me. I really don't know how to feel right now. All I know is that I miss you, and I would do anything for one last hug. It's too bad I wasn't able to say goodbye before you left us. You will always be in my heart, and I'll never forget you. Daunte Jr. loves you so much.
It's sad to say goodbye to someone that you loved and the father of your child. It was difficult for her. Yesterday she was pretty emotional and torn up. It's always difficult not to be able to see someone ever again. The family's in pain. Hopefully the city can heal itself, and the family can heal itself, and we can all go toward a better future for us all. I'd also like to introduce now Tiffany Williams with the African American Human Rights Organization. She does a lot of nonprofit work throughout the nation, and I think she's going to be doing a lot of work here trying to heal the wounds of our nation.
Good evening, everybody. This is a sad time, and I wish we could be here under happier circumstances. The African American Human Rights Organization is an organization that started out of Dallas. I am the founder, and we basically look at incidences of police brutality and police violence against minorities, especially in the African American communities. The statistics are staggering when you look at the raw numbers. 1 out of every 1,000 African American being born will, according to the statistics, eventually end up being killed right now we're in the middle of an epidemic, and that is, there's an epidemic on the minority community, an epidemic of police violence, police brutality, and it has to be addressed and it has to be stopped. And we can't do it by ourselves. It's going to take more than just African Americans to band together and say that this is a problem, right? We're going to have the help of every nationality. The results of the George Floyd verdict shows that not only did African Americans see that something had gone wrong with George Floyd's detainment, but that other nationalities that were on the jury saw that something had gone wrong as well. And once we can admit that there's a problem in our police departments, there's a problem with training, there's a problem with white supremacists being recruited as police officers, then we can adequately and accurately address the issues and the problems of police brutality. Until then, we'll continue to go in circles, we'll continue to bury young men, we'll continue to bury old men at the hands of police violence and brutality. Again, I am Tiffany Williams with the African American Human Rights Organization, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Tiffany. I kind of mentioned it earlier, the journey for justice. Now that Daunte's on his journey home to our father, now we can begin to try to get justice for him. And I wanted to make sure I also address a few things that the family had concerns about. One of them, I think there was a police organization here in the state that said that if he would have complied, Daunte, then he'd be alive. You know, and I can't think of any other statement. It's a pretty horrible statement to say when somebody passes away, because everyone is innocent until proven guilty, or what we'd like to think, right? And you know, police officers aren't executioners. You know, so my job is just beginning. Our job is just beginning as a people to make sure that people get due process. People like Daunte get due process, and that it doesn't happen to anyone else's son. So it's time to send the officer that killed him to jail and let justice be done. And to also touch on, like they touched on yesterday at the funeral, change the laws and put things in place to make sure that we can save our youngsters, okay? Because you know, like I said, everybody deserves due process, and it's almost like, you know, you're looking at executions now. You're looking at modern day lynchings that are caught on camera. You know, strange fruit right in front of you, and it's really disturbing. It's almost numbing when you see the verdict come out. As an African American, I was numb. You kind of expect that it won't go the right way, but when it does, you really don't know how to react because you're not used to getting fair play. But it is something that gives us a breath of fresh air or a sigh of relief to be able to see finally things turning out different instead of officers walking free. So the new day is dawning, and I want to keep it brief. If you have any questions moving forward for me, then I can answer some of those on behalf of the family. If anybody has any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Has the family facing like death threats or any threats?
Have they faced have the family faced any death threats? Is that right? I don't want to specifically point those out, but there are some security concerns. You know, whenever you have an event like this, you get a lot of people who come out, and America is an interesting place. So there are some concerns as far as safety for the family that we're addressing and making sure that we can keep them safe. And I'm not sure, you know, why that happens, but you know, you do have people who support the officer no matter what, and some people, you know, are happy that she killed Daunte. I'll just be honest with you. So I always get a bunch of calls and emails that are pretty, racist, and it's a sad thing to see that. You know, or you'll see comments on social media that are bad, or that are nasty, or like whatever police organization here in the state said, hey, if he complied, that he'd still be alive. I mean, who says that when a mother has just lost her child? You know, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it seems like people don't have hearts, but yes, there have been some threats to the family, and which is disturbing, but hopefully we can get past that as well and heal this nation. Did anybody else have anything?
Are you happy with the prosecution now? Some community groups are wanting the Attorney General's office to step in and prosecute. Is that something the family would like?
Well, I like to see them moving pretty fast to do things that are right, instead of in other years where they don't release the tapes. You know, they have a smear campaign on the victim. So it's good to see that they are listening to the people of all colors who were disturbed in the city. I saw people of all colors out there with banners and waving at the procession. So I do like to see positive things happening, and I'm seeing some positive things in the state toward justice. And they're making sure that trials are held and that they're fair trials, and that these officers, when they execute somebody in the street, that they're held accountable. So I do like to see that, obviously. You know, so hopefully we can get these laws changed to stop the minor traffic stops from turning into a death sentence, you know, or modern day lynching. You know, you still got it, but it's just in a different form. You understand? So hopefully that answers your question.
Well, maybe just a follow-up on Nathan White with Reuters. Just on that, I mean, obviously there's the charge so far is manslaughter. I believe it's second-degree manslaughter.
Okay.
There have been some calls for a tougher charge. Do you support? Does the family support?
Well, the family supports a fair and thorough investigation, and for the prosecutors to take a really good look at this and do a really good investigation. So not just taking her word for it, maybe talking to other witnesses to see where her state of mind is and to see if maybe there's a different intent. I'm not a criminal law lawyer in this state, but I do understand that you've got to do a thorough investigation to see if there is a more appropriate charge. You can't just rush to justice, but you can't not do your job and do a thorough investigation either. So it's hard to know what the intent of a police officer is, but you know, even it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at that video and tell that she may have known that she had her gun instead of her taser in her hand, right? That just doesn't make any sense. Or, you know, and I haven't investigated all the facts, but from what I'm hearing, if you're a trainer for 20 years, it sounds to me like you know better than you know if you have your gun and your taser in your hand. Just kind of common sense. Right, so we'll leave it up. They've done a good job on George Floyd. They got a good result on that. So I would trust, I think the family would trust that they'll do a good job on this and come to a fair conclusion. That's all that anybody wants, is a fair conclusion. You've got a jury of peers, and if that jury finds that she is guilty, then that would give the family some semblance, China and her young son, some semblance of closure. You know, so that would be good.
Does the family have plans to file a civil lawsuit?
I think that's always, you know, I'm a lawyer, so obviously a civil lawsuit is something that we do to get justice. You can't bring them back. You know, I would do anything to bring them back too, if I could. I'd like to go home, you know, today if they could come back in here, and they wouldn't have to bring a civil lawsuit. So it may be something that we do, but we'll try to open a dialogue with the city and the police department to see if there's some sort of resolution that can come before that, because it's painful for a family to have to not only go to the funeral and see him there, laying there, lifeless. That's painful. It's even more painful to have to relive this every single day, not just up until the trial and the verdict, but after that as well. You know, it's painful, and people forget African Americans feel pain too. They love their loved ones. They love their children. They want their children to grow up to be successful. So whatever we can do to get a resolution and get justice for them, then that's what we'll do.
Could we ask China just a few questions?
I don't think she wants to answer any questions. She let me know that before we came out here. But the family just wants to thank everybody for their support and for the love that they've showed. at the funeral and the love that the majority of people are showing toward Daunte and his life and his child, and the outpouring of support nationwide. Mostly, it's been mostly positive. We've got a few negative things, but for most, and you can see that there is hope for a brighter future, where everyone of all colors can get due process on the street and won't get executed, and can live a full life.
Could you quantify to date just now how much support and donations China has now received?
Oh, well, I'm not sure about that, but I know she has received an outpouring of support from churches and individuals. Because now, her son's father's dead. There's no one financially to make sure he can go to college, and make sure he can go to prom, and make sure he can do those things that children do when they grow up. So it's a very amazing thing to see. We've come a long way as a nation. I think we'll get there one day.
Is there anything that you want done with that executive director of that Police Officers Federation that made the comment on the radio? Do you want him to step down?
Well, I think the police officers, police officers and people in those positions have got to be careful what they say. They're supposed to be guys who uphold the law. You're not supposed to show any animosity toward anyone. You're not supposed to make statements like that. You're supposed to do your job. And to say if he complied that he'd be alive, you're basically saying that we've got a right to execute you when we want to, right? Everyone's innocent until proven guilty. And as a lawyer and as citizens, we've got to keep fighting until that's the case. That's basically it. We just got to keep fighting. We're all in this together. We're taxpayers. And as taxpayers, they work for us. We pay their salary. So we deserve better service than that, right? So maybe something should be done. They need to look into that. I'm not sure if he's a police officer or et cetera, but I know one police officer donated to someone's fund and got dismissed. I guess he donated to someone who had done something bad, Kyle Rittenhouse Fund. Some police officer did something like that and he got removed or he got reprimanded for it. So police officers are held to a higher standard, just like me. Just like I am, I should say, just like a judge is. If we're doing something that's bad or we're making statements that we're not supposed to make, we can get admonished for that. So maybe so. I don't want to say his name. I don't know his name. I'm not trying to defame anybody, but I heard that there was a statement that was made that was insensitive at worst. I think you get what I'm saying.
When do you, in terms of this, like a possible civil lawsuit, can you just talk about your thought process on when you would make a decision on that? Would you wait for the criminal,
Well, there are a lot of lawyers at play on this case. I think the other family has quite a few lawyers over there. Obviously, we saw some lawyers speaking at the funeral the other day. So strategically, from that point, sometimes we speak together to figure out the best avenue to move forward, because we don't want to jeopardize the case by different lawyers doing different things. So obviously, we communicate with each other, and we'll want to open a dialogue with the city and the police department and any other possible defendant to see if there's some sort of resolution that we could reach outside of putting the family through all that pain and causing them all that expense.
So have you started a dialogue with
Not yet. The funeral just happened yesterday, so I would imagine we'll start that pretty soon. Try to sit down and not only to figure out what to do with this case, but to figure out how to prevent this from happening again. I think that needs to be done.
Obviously, that would be with Brooklyn Center.
No, so I haven't reached out yet.
Right, you haven't. Okay, so you mentioned the lawyers with the Wright family. Are you in communication with them about this, or not yet?
Well, I just met them the other day.
Okay.
So we will be in communication. It's a common thing for lawyers to communicate, even though they represent different people concerning the same matter. Because you don't want to fight, amongst each other.
Sure.
You'd like to work together to see if you can get justice for everybody in the family. If it makes sense to you. Yeah. Anyone else? Any more questions?
Do you mind saying and spelling your name? I'm sorry.
Thomas Bowers. Bowers with an S. I think I saw Bauer, you know, it's
So B-O-W.
Thomas, B as in boy, O-W-E-R-S as in Sam. Bowers. Cool. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. Again, the family wishes to thank the entire city for showing their support and moving forward, also showing that support in their journey for justice for Daunte Wright. And hopefully y'all have a good evening. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. I'm always available. Thank you. Oh, we're on. Want to say something? Oh, the aunt wants to say something. Renee? Renee Russell.
Hello, my name is Renee Russell. I'm one of 5 aunts of China Whitaker. I'm the great aunt of Daunte Wright Jr. China and Dwight, Daunte Sr. Dated for 3 years. And like young teenagers, sometimes that relationship falls apart. However, they were still good friends, co-parenting, and still cared for one another. They had a son, Daunte Wright Jr. He was a preemie. He was born 1 pound, 12 ounces. You can hold him in your hand. So we weren't sure how his life was going to be because him being a preemie and being severe. He overcome. Things would still come from that. Speaking of Daunte Sr., he was a good father, devoted, dedicated, supportive of his son in China. I know in relationships, being a single mom is difficult, but being a single mom without a father is even worse. He will never have that time, that father and son time, playing ball, going to the games, dad and son talks when it comes to girls, and learning to be a man. But I can assure Daunte Sr. that we will take care of him, we will love him, be supportive of his son, show him love. He'll have love from both sides of the family. We just ask that it's just going to be difficult for China, being a single parent and not having her son's father there, because Daunte was involved. I think we'll help out with that right there, but unfortunately his life was ended sooner than we expected, never anticipated that. Even with, we were playing with Daunte Jr. the other day, and something, he just looked up and he said, "Daddy." And it was touching because God works in mysterious ways. And I think maybe that was the Spirit coming down. This father or the son, I don't know, but I trust and believe that was. I just want China to know you have the love of your family, you and Daunte, and there's nothing for you to be concerned with. We have your back and our baby's back. And we'll do whatever we can to support her and help Daunte Jr. grow up to be healthy, not be fearful of being in the vehicle because he's black. So hopefully with things the way it is and the recent case of George Floyd, that things will change for the betterment, where we can walk and work and live in peace and not be threatened or intimidated or fearful of police or anyone, you know. So I just wanted to say that, and again, China, I love you, I love Daunte Jr., and you have our full support, and we'll help her however we can to get her through this moment, and thank you.
China's stepfather, Darren, wants to say a few words.
you have to do. It's a tragic event what happened with Daunte, and we want justice for Daunte. And we gonna give Daunte all the support that he needs. We're here to support China. We're here to seek justice for Daunte's father, because he's gonna have to grow up without his father. And it's the roles that I'm gonna have to play, it's his other family have to play, because everybody is gonna be a vital instrument in his life right now. And he needs all the support and all the encouragement that he can receive. And it's a sad affair when people when we have police that police our community, when they shoot down a 20-year-old, a child, you know, just taking a life, it's not a good thing, you know, especially unjustly for no apparent reason. And now, not only the parents suffer, the children have to suffer, his son have to suffer, his baby mama have to suffer, the families have to suffer, his sisters and brothers have to suffer a tragic loss for nothing. And it's sad. And someone needs to pay for that, because all the suffering that the family is doing, like I said, I feel that the city should pay for that tragedy that they inflicted on his family, on my family. And we got to stick together. We're gonna come together, and we're gonna give Daunte all the support that he needs, because it's sad. It's very sad. And like I said, some of the statements that was made in this case, it shouldn't have been made. You know what I mean? The officer was wrong. Ain't no questioning that. And the city shouldn't question it. The officer was wrong. And they should have dealt with it a different way. Should have went about it a different way. And we want justice for Daunte. We want justice for Daunte. We want justice for China. We want justice for his parents. And we demand justice. We demand justice for Daunte Wright. We demand justice for Daunte. Because now he got to grow up without a father. So we all have to play father. His grandfather got to be a father. His father's got to be a father. His uncles, his brothers. Everybody have to be fathers in this life now, because he's going to need that support. Because they took away his father. And his mother is suffering. She had to wake up every day with her son, knowing that he'd never see his father again. And it's painful to her. And I hate to see my stepdaughter suffering the way she do, because his father's suffering. You know, to know that her son ain't gonna be able to wake up to his father. And when his father gonna have many questions. Mama, where's my dad? And she gonna have to answer them questions. Thank you all.
He's right. We should all, as American citizens, demand justice. And that should be our cry for the nation. Demand justice for anyone that's at the hand of injustice, receive any sort of unjust behavior or treatment. Demand justice. But if anybody doesn't have any more questions, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, listening to China's family, and realize that it's not just that everybody's hurt. Not only do you have a community that's hurt, you've got a family that's broken, and it may never heal, you know, forever. And it's something that could have been prevented. And there's got to be small things that we can do as a community to make sure that this doesn't happen again. If we work together, speak out, and do what we can do as individuals and as citizens and as human beings and as Americans. So thanks again. Hopefully everyone has a good and safe evening. And I appreciate y'all coming out. Thank you.